Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve Knutson, and I'm with Fairfax County's Department of Transportation. And I want to welcome you all to tonight's meeting to discuss the traffic calming plan for Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street. We can start with introductions, and tonight from FCDOT, we have Ryan O'Carroll, Grace Vaughn, and Nicole Machakwe. And from the Providence District Supervisor's Office, we have Patricia Leslie. Nicole has a short presentation to go through, and after the presentation, we'll open the meeting up to the community for any further questions or comments. And if any of the community task force members are logged on to tonight's meeting, they can introduce themselves following the presentation during the Q&A. Patricia, is there anything you would like to add before we start?
I would just like to say thank you to Vincent and the task force members for their time and devotion to improving safety. And thanks to you, Steve and Nicole and Grace and Ryan for work on this project. We look forward to the presentation.
All right, thank you, Patricia. Nicole, if you're ready, you can go ahead and start the presentation.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Steve. As Steve mentioned, we are here to discuss the traffic calming process or program for Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street. So welcome. Please note that this session is being recorded and may be shared on social media. Please hold all questions until the end of the presentation, and instructions for how to ask your question will be provided at the end of the presentation. Today we are here to explain the traffic calming process, provide community or opportunity for community feedback, and answer any questions that you all might have. So we can start and begin with what traffic calming is. Traffic calming is the installation of physical devices to reduce vehicle speed. These devices can be either vertical or horizontal. Vertical devices are driven over, such as a speed hump, shown as you can see in the upper left-hand image. And horizontal devices can be driven around, such as a raised median island, as you can see in the upper right-hand image. Both types of devices make the road safer for drivers and pedestrians. I do want to note that through this process, we are not permitted to install stop signs. Here we have charts and images showing the effects of decreased speed. As speed decreases, visual acuity, field of vision, and depth perception increase. Also, with a reduction of speed, we can see a decrease in a stopping distance. Here we are displaying a map of traffic calming projects across Fairfax County. We have over 279 projects, resulting in more than 650 devices installed countywide. Every district has implemented traffic calming measures. The chances that you have driven over one are pretty high. FCDOT and the District Supervisor's Office collaborate with citizens on all community-initiated projects. The program can be broken into 5 steps. So step number 1 is project initiation. Step number 2 is plan development. Step number 3 is community engagement. Step number 4 is ballot phase. And for the final step, step number 5 is project installation. As stated, all traffic calming projects are community initiated. The process begins with a request from the community to the supervisor's office. Once that request is received, FCDOT will complete a basic eligibility review. And if eligible, FCDOT will then conduct a traffic study. And if the eligibility and traffic study requirements are met, the community will then form a task force. To meet basic eligibility requirements, the road must be VDOT maintained, have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit, be functionally classified as local, collector, or arterial, And if it's a collector or arterial, it needs to be a residential street. As for the traffic study, the volume criteria, we need between 500 and 6,000 vehicles in 24 hours, both directions combined. So for Fairmont Street, the volume was 846 vehicles, which means that it met the volume requirements as well. And for the speed criteria, the recorded 85th percentile speed needs to be greater than or equal to 35 miles per hour. So what this means is that 15% of vehicles need to be traveling at 35 miles per hour or faster in at least one direction of travel. So the 85th percentile speed for Fairmont in the northbound lane was 35 miles per hour, and then the southbound lane, it was 41 miles per hour, which means the Fairmont Street met the speed criteria in both travel lanes. We also conducted a traffic study on Strathmeade Street. So for the volume for Strathmeade, we had 611, so we met the volume criteria. And the 85th percentile on Strathmeade Street was 33 in the northbound lane and 38 in the southbound lane. So which means Strathmeade Street met the speed criteria in the southbound lane. So the next step is step number 2, plan development. FCDOT will conduct a site visit in the field in order to develop a draft plan. Once a draft plan has been developed, FCDOT will meet with the task force and obtain feedback and amend the plan if necessary. Once the task force is satisfied with the draft plan, property owners directly adjacent to the proposed measures will need to sign off on the placement of the device in order to move on. There are placement requirements for vertical devices. Devices must have a minimum of 300 feet between measures and from existing stop conditions, a minimum of 150 feet from an intersection, a minimum of 150 feet for continuous sight distance, and it also must fit on the existing roadway. So we have to take into account any driveways, manholes, utilities, and we also have to count for the grade of the road. So based on those requirements, we created a field map that gives us an idea of where we can place a device. Highlighted in green are possible locations on Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street. After reviewing the field map, we then conduct a field review to see if the devices can fit on the existing roadway. So based on the available options and the site visit, FCDOT is able to propose 3 speed humps on Fairmont Street and 2 speed humps on Strathmeade Street. The addresses that are listed in the blue boxes are the ones who signed off on the adjacent property forms, the APFs, because the devices are directly adjacent to their property. Here we have a schematic of a speed hump. The speed hump is 12 feet long and 3 inches high at center. There will be white chevrons in each travel lane and a speed hump signs with a recommended speed of 15 miles per hour on each side of the device. This is a larger image of what the speed hump would look like from the side of the street, with it being, as I stated, 12 feet long and 3 inches high at center. Step 3 is the community meeting, which is where we're here today. This is where FCDOT presents the plan to the community to obtain feedback. And based on that feedback, the task force will decide whether to amend the plan or proceed to the next phase. If the task force decides to move forward, we will then move to ballot phase. So ballot phase, step 4. Each occupied property in the ballot area will receive 1 vote and send it directly to the district supervisor's office. The ballot period will be open for a minimum of 3 weeks. The supervisor's office will tally the votes and notify the task force of the results. Here we have an example of the ballot. The proposed devices will be listed on the ballot, and the community will be voting on the entire plan. The task force is responsible for distributing the ballot package to everyone in the ballot area. There are 3 ways to return your ballot by the deadline. You can mail in your ballot directly to the supervisor's office. You can hand deliver it directly to the supervisor's office, or you can email it directly to the supervisor's office. Please note, all ballots must be turned in directly to the supervisor's office using one of the 3 methods I listed. Any ballots collected by the task force will not be counted and will be discarded. Here is a ballot area map for Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street. There are 132 ballots, and in order for the proposed plan to move forward, we will need greater than 50% of all occupied properties to vote in favor. So we will need 67 yes votes in order for the plan to move forward. And if we get the required number of yes votes, we can move forward to step 5, which is project installation. The traffic calming plan will be presented to the Fairfax County Board of Supervisors for endorsement, and the resolution will be sent to VDOT. Once endorsed and VDOT accepts the resolution, SCDOT will work with the Department of Public Works and Environmental Services to schedule installation. And then finally, the traffic calming measures on the plan will be installed. So there are, after tonight's meeting, there are next steps for the task force that they will need to follow. So 1, the task force determines and notifies Fairfax County if they would like to move forward with the presented plan. 2, task force and supervisor's office will decide and notify FCDOT if ballots in the ballot area are to be distributed to homeowners or occupants. 3, the task force will receive the ballot cover letter and will complete the form as directed by FCDOT. And 4, task force sends the completed ballot cover letter to FCDOT for approval. Once approved, they will receive the verified ballot package. And 5, lastly, for the final step, the task force will need to print and distribute the ballots to all homes in the ballot area. And as noted before, the task force must not collect the ballots. So this concludes the presentation. And now we can move on to questions and answers portion of the meeting. You have 2 options to ask your questions, chat or speak. Once it's, when you want to chat or want to type in your question, you can just type into the chat option and for your question and we'll respond. And for if you want to speak, click the raise hand icon. And once the host calls on you to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking the mic icon up in the right-hand side of your screen, or press Control-Shift-M on your keyboard. Please lower your hand once you are done asking your question. If you're calling by phone, please push *5 to raise your hand. And when it is your turn, the host will send you a unmute request. You need to push *6 to unmute and ask your question. And after you're finished, please push *5 to unraise your hand. Thank you very much.
So it would appear that I got the first question. I would like to know how, in your accounting of the traffic on Fairmont and Strathmeade, I live at the corner of, or close to the corner of Elmwood and Strathmeade, and on Strathmeade, and I would like to know how you account for the church traffic with respect to speed and volume.
So we didn't count during a week. We counted midweek, and we just collect general traffic for the two roads, as we do for all the roads that we're going through the program, trying to show what a typical pattern is for these roads. So we have not collected during a weekend for either road. Generally, we don't do that unless we're asked to.
I'm sorry, the phone part of this is not that great, but so the church has traffic daily. So up Strathmeade every morning in the early morning for the early service, there are people coming in, and I'm presuming they're coming in on Fairmont as well. That seems a really important part of it. The churchgoers tend to be respectful, but they're also not. I mean, my home office looks over Strathmeade. I don't see that many people going ridiculous speeds. And I think that it's Fairmont that needs the speed humps, not really Strathmeade. Strathmeade not having speed humps and Fairmont having speed humps would probably put traffic onto Strathmeade because there's that cut through from 29 to 50. That seems to be very important to people. There's also the cut through where people try to get around traffic on 50 on the service road. That's closer to us than it is to the pipe stem on Fairmont. But the reality is that we just don't have the kind of traffic on Strathmeade that requires any kind of traffic calming measure, which I watch every day.
Correct. So, I mean, we did collect data and it did qualify. So now if we do go to the ballot, then it's going to be up to the community to determine if they want to have the devices that we can fit onto Strathmeade. So it did qualify.
The other question I have is how you're going to, how you're accounting for the renters and the rental properties, because there's probably maybe half to slightly more than a third of the properties on Strathmeade are renters who don't seem to be, they don't necessarily seem to be the kind of people who would get involved in something like this. I don't know what the numbers are on Fairmont.
You mean when it goes to the ballot? So for the ballot process, we do leave that up to the task force and the supervisor's office to determine if they want to send the ballots out to the property owners. And if they do, we can help identify the mailing addresses for the property owners, or they can mail the ballot to the occupant. So that's something that the task force would have to take under consideration.
So if there's 5 college kids with all of their names on the lease in a house, how do you find out who gets that ballot? Because it's one vote per place.
We're not going to make that determination. So we're going to issue one ballot per address. And if it's an occupant that's there, they have to make the decision with them amongst themselves who's going to submit the ballot.
And do you think that's realistic? I mean, I don't mean to be
Typically, typically it is, yes.
It seems like there's a lot of thought that hasn't gone into this.
Well, no, actually, there has been a lot of thought that's gone into this. This program.
Oh, I know. I've seen the markings on the street where the speed humps would go. I've not seen anybody come to my door and talk to me about speed humps. Where I've had, people from churches, people trying to sell, tree care and lawn care and insecticide and all kinds of stuff, but I haven't seen anybody from this alleged task force coming to the door and wanting to talk about putting a speed hump on our street.
Well, that's part of the reason for tonight's meeting.
And I would suggest to you that Teams and face-to-face are not the same thing. Teams, I chose not to use Teams, and I don't want to make this about me, but I don't like using a thing like this where I have to agree to terms and conditions I don't have time to read. And maybe everybody else uses it for work and haven't read those terms and conditions, but face to face, like at the library would be great. We could talk about it. somebody coming to the door would be great.
Okay. All right. Well, we do appreciate your comments, and we would like to move on to the next person. So I think, Patrick, you did have your hand up next.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make clear that this is just to inform us of this going to ballot, right? So
Correct.
everyone still has a choice to of how they want to vote. So I just want to make that clear for all the other residents. And I would counter the last statement that was made. I also live on Strathmeade and close to the corner of Elmwood. I would say that people do go quite fast, so I'm in favor of these speed. But I just wanted to make that valid that I would disagree with the speed of folks not going as fast on Strathmeade as they are on Fairmont.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for your comments, Patrick.
We did have a question in chat. There's a couple, but the first one I see is, what is the timeline for installation if plans move forward?
Nicole, you want to answer that question? It's your favorite question.
Sure, Steve. So it depending on really how quickly the task force can get the ball rolling. So there are pretty heavy steps after this process. One is that, as I mentioned before, the task force has several things that they need to consider after community comment and feedback. Once they give us the go-ahead on whether or not to move forward with the ballot phase, there are ballot materials that they need to complete and we need to verify. So that could take a couple weeks. Then after that, and the ballot time period needs to be open for like a minimum of 3 weeks. And we allow the task force another week in that in order to prepare the materials, print them out, and distribute them. So everyone in the ballot area has 3 weeks to cast their vote. Then after that, we will take it to the Board of Supervisors for endorsement. And then, like I said, we'll take it to DPWES, and then they'll work on their half. We also have to get it approved through VDOT. So there are also micro mini steps in between there. So we're looking at, if everything goes smoothly and everything goes according to plan, I would say 4 to 6 months. And also is weather dependent. So if the task force decides to move this process until after summer, we have to consider, winter conditions as well can halt processes. And if I missed anything, Steve, feel free to jump in.
No, I think that's everything, Nicole. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. There was one more question in chat clarifying the purpose of the ballot is to approve or disapprove the plan in total, correct? It is not to suggest alternative locations for the speed bumps.
That is correct. Nicole, if you want to show the sample, do we have the sample ballot on this presentation? Basically, it's going to be a yes or no vote for the plan as a whole. We're going to list the device locations, and then the person voting just indicates if they support or if they do not support all of the locations listed on the ballot.
I would also like to note, since we're looking at the sample ballot, and when you guys do cast your vote, if we do receive a ballot that says both yes and no, that will be discarded. If we do receive a ballot from one person saying yes, from the same household saying no, that will be acquitted. And so that will not be accounted for. And then also please list your name and address on the ballot. That is the way that the district supervisor's office is able to tell who has voted and how.
So it looks like Joe Robertson was having their hand raised. If you want to ask your question now, you can unmute yourself.
Thanks. I was having some difficulty raising my hand. So I keep hearing this referred to as speed bumps, and what you presented was speed humps of 3 inches. My concern is my very old car of 20 years is 4 inches worth of clearance. So if you go more than 3 inches, I'm going to be bottoming out every time. What reassurances do you have that these speed bumps are not going to go higher than 3 inches, please?
So after they are installed through the contractor that DPW hires, FCDOT and DPW meet in the field and measure the height of the devices to make sure that they are built to the specifications of the device schematic. So if they are not within a tolerance level of like a 1/4 inch, we will, have the contractor remove the device and reinstall it. So, we're looking to make sure that they are built to specification after the contractor has installed it, and generally they are not getting sign off on their work until we verify that.
And you have given us another option of islands in there. How do we know that that's not something that, like, how do we know what specifically has been advised for what are we moving forward with in our jurisdiction?
Currently, we are moving forward with 5 speed humps at those 5 locations, all speed humps at the 5 locations.
And those speed humps will be absolutely no less than 12 feet long and no more than 3 inches high.
Right. I mean, it is handwork. They're going to be, some variants, but if you go directly next door over onto Pine Spring Road, you should be able to drive over some fairly recent installations.
Exactly my point. I bottom out.
Okay. I mean, if you feel that they're too aggressive for your vehicle, then, if we move forward to the ballot process, then I would recommend that you not support this process.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, next question or hand that we have raised is Andy. So when you get the chance, you can unmute yourself. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. This is Andy Talcott from 2914 Fairmont. First of all, thank you all for putting this together. I'm a member of the task force along with James and Vince, also of Fairmont Street. It's been a long time coming. I think we first started this process back in 2022. So just really appreciate everybody joining this and being engaged around the process in general. As they mentioned, we're kind of smack dab in the middle of it in terms of voting. If there is feedback y'all would like to pass along to the task force, I believe there was an email included on the flyer that was distributed. We'll also take that feedback about engaging our neighbors when it comes to handing out the ballots. So obviously still have to go through that process and deliver those door to door. So if y'all have any feedback, please feel free to pass that along. I believe Vince's phone number is also included on that flyer. And yeah, we just, like I said earlier, really appreciate all of y'all joining us and providing feedback on the situation.
All right, thank you, Andy. We do have contact information listed on one of the PowerPoint slides in this presentation. We can show it later on, or we can also show it now. If people do have questions after the end of the meeting, they can call our office, or they can call the Providence District office and ask to talk to somebody about the traffic calming effort on Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street, or they can email to dotinfo@fairfaxcounty.gov and put in the subject line Fairmont Street and Strathmeade Street traffic calming, and the same with Providence@fairfaxcounty.gov. And so the phone numbers are up there for the Providence office at 703-560-6946. And for FCDOT, it is 703-877-5600. We are recording this also. It will be posted online, I think on a YouTube channel in maybe a week or so. And we do have the PowerPoint slides distributed to the supervisor's office, and they can be forwarded to anybody that requests them.
I'm not seeing any questions right now, but there is an email shared with the task force email, which may be helpful if you're wanting to reach out with questions.
And so I think, like Nicole had said earlier through this presentation, that the task force should meet again after tonight's meeting and determine if they want to go ahead and move to the ballot process. And if they do, they'll just need to reach out to Patricia at the supervisor's office and let her know. We'll start to get that ballot packet put together for the task force. It will be up to the task force to print the ballots out and distribute them. We should, if they are distributed by hand, we do like to see those ballots go out as close together as possible. What I'm saying is that, if you deliver to a home on, within the ballot area, you need to try to deliver to all the homes within a certain time frame, as best as you can. If some people are receiving a ballot and other people don't get their ballot, then it does cause some people to be upset. And we don't want to have anybody thinking that they're being excluded through this process. And for the ballot packet, we are going to need to see a couple of things, and one of them will be a cover letter explaining what is being received by the person that's getting this bit of mail. And then also the ballot that we showed a sample of earlier, and then a schematic of the speed hump, which we also showed earlier, and then a map showing the device location. So those items will need to be included in the ballot packet. And there are some comments in the chat. We can share them if need be, or you all can just click on the chat button up top and read through them on your own. We're not really seeing any questions for staff in there. It does seem to be information, some of it from the task force, offering to, respond to any questions and things like that. Okay, we can keep the meeting going for a few more minutes, but if we don't see anybody else putting anything in the chat or raising their hand to ask a question, we might go ahead and just bring the meeting to an end a little earlier. Like I said, we did email the PowerPoint presentation to Patricia at the supervisor's office. She can distribute it if requested. And then also we should be able to have tonight's presentation up online for people to view in a week or so. And Patricia, do you have any comments or any anything that you would like to offer to the group before we close down for tonight?
I'd just like to thank everybody, especially FCDOT, of course, for making the preparations, and also the task force. This is all a volunteer effort. And so residents can thank the task force members for their input and efforts in trying to slow traffic down and provide traffic calming. But it is up to the task force to determine to move ahead, to change the plan, or to stop it. And Steve, if it's changed, then doesn't that require another meeting, another community meeting?
Yes, typically if there's a change to the plan, we would then need to re-meet.
But I invite residents to contact the Providence District Office with any questions or FCDOT.
All right, thank you, Patricia.
Yeah,
Okay, and we're still not seeing anybody's hand being raised. And it does look like we've had no more questions posted in the chat. Is that correct? I think it is. And I think we'll just go ahead and say good night for this evening. You all have a pleasant night, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Have
yes.
a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.